Hey everybody, welcome to InfernoCast number 004. I am, of course, Inferno Fox, and this is my YouTube channel where we feature a whole lot of content regarding video games, some stuff topical, like today's topic, as well as kind of stuff that's more even retro style, like old NES, SNES kind of stuff. And before we dive into today's topic, I just want to go ahead and run through whom we have joining with us today. It's a little bit of a slimmer cast, but that's A-okay. We got some of the greats here. We have Simbu Darkfang. He is our level 5 grandpa, and he is part of Basement of the Dead in Aurora, Illinois. That, again, is Basement of the Dead. Simbu, thank you so much for joining us.
Have you guys seen my glasses?
I haven't seen them, but I do see that Storm is wearing glasses.
Yes,
She
Storm.
probably took them.
I did. I did.
Stormrosesky. She, of course, has the YouTube and Twitch channels of Stormrosesky. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, even if it's just us right now.
And pleasure to have you here too. We might have a couple additional faces popping in, maybe not. We'll kind of see how the evening goes here. And of course, I want to go ahead and pose the titular question of games that you are playing, but I am actually going to start first because I realized when I posed that last week, I didn't even say what the heck I was playing. So I finished Final Fantasy 16 last week, and as anybody who follows my channel knows that I posted my review up for that, and it was a game that ended up being better than what I thought it was going to end up being. I enjoyed the battle system a lot more than what I thought it was going to be. But yeah, it was a solid game. Again, check that review out if you get a chance. But besides that, now that I'm out of the game, and the next big release isn't until Starfield in September, and I'm literally crossing my fingers that can play in some form or fashion on the Steam Deck. I am currently playing Trails of Cold Steel 1. It's like the Legend of Heroes series by Nihon Falcom. One of those nice anime-style turn-based games, turn-based RPGs. And kind of dabbling a little bit, finishing out the pixel remasters for my favorite game of all time, Final Fantasy VI. Storm, what are you currently playing right now?
Right now, I'm going through Fractured Butthole, South Park's game. However, I still need to look into the issue of why it froze on me yesterday during that boss battle. Not once, but twice, and especially having him down from 9,999 hit points to 499, and then it just froze. The only thing I could do was hit save and back out of it, the controller, and quit the game, and go to the home menu. And even rebooted the PS5 and loaded the game again, and it took a couple of times trying that battle, and then it locked up once more, and then I just quit. I was done.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Especially going from 999 hit points to like low 400s.
Yeah, he was just about dead with one more hit of Tupperware's little tornado thingy I had lined up, and I couldn't do it. I was so mad. So, other than that, Fortnite, because I want Optimus Prime. So I'm trying to get to 100, and it's just Fortnite. And I finally won a solo match this season and then won another one. So that was fun. And Joe got to see, or was in the audience for that second one. So yay. I've come in second and third a couple of times. Like, I have no problem hitting top 10, but getting the freaking win this season. So yeah, that's about it. And Animal Crossing. I restarted an island, and I'm slowly going through that. So there you go.
Nice, excellent. And that before we actually started recording, we discussed possibly doing Animal Crossing as a topic. So for our fans listening, go ahead and be ready for that. That's going to be a really good topic because Simbu and I have the least amount of experience with that game, but our previous cast last week, they have the most amount of experience, especially our regular Storm here. So I'm really curious as to their various viewpoints, especially on stuff like content creation or the lack thereof.
Yeah, and we won't talk about playtime hours on either of the Switches. So.
Yes.
Well, we won't discuss that. We will.
We will, but we won't.
Yes. Anyway. I will admit it. It is insane, but I will gladly just, tell how many hours I have into it. So say that I know something of the game, I know something of the game.
And I think in preparation for that, I'll have to have you take a screenshot of the hours like the day before and have you share that with the class here. But
yep, absolutely.
Simbu, what games are you currently playing right now?
Well, still working on that power wash simulator. It's one of those that you kind of play, but it's not one where it's like, oh, I gotta finish it. It's kind of like a downtime, relaxed game, I just started my replay through of the Fractured Butthole. So not super far into it, but again, just started about an hour and a half ago. So and then so Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm giving it a second chance for the $10 on the PlayStation Store. I couldn't pass up the good deal on it. And as I was telling Storm last night when we were playing Fortnite, not as bad as I originally remembered, but being far removed from the ending to Mass Effect 3 and the ending of the trilogy there, I believe that probably jaded a lot of my opinion of the game. So being, many, many moons removed from that, I feel that it's given me a fresh look at the series without having played the Mass Effect Legendary Collection before starting Andromeda.
Nice. I am really curious when you finish that offline. Let me know, and I want to dedicate like a 5-minute segment of whatever our podcast is for that topic, just for your final thoughts and feelings on Andromeda. Like, even if you decide that you're like 5 to 10 hours in, you're like, all right, this is why I stopped playing this crap. I still want to know, because I'm genuinely curious, because you've played all 3 Mass Effects. I think you're the only one out of our whole group that has. It's on my backlog, as all of my subscribers and everything know from my backlog video, but that's no mean feat. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that.
Well, when I get to that point, I'll let you know.
Excellent. All right, my friends. So let's go ahead and discuss our topic du jour, which being July 18th and all of the fun and rigmarole of video game news. It is, of course, going to be the Microsoft acquisition of Activision-Blizzard-King. And what I wanted to really quickly do is just kind of give a very high-level overview of kind of the events so far, and just to kind of help refresh our memories and everything like that, and really just maybe also for the viewers and everything here, just so they're aware as to the goings on. So, of course, Microsoft's trying to purchase Activision Blizzard King. I'm going to abbreviate ABK. ABK is their own entity right now, and they were their own separate companies, but Activision and Blizzard had merged sometime a few years ago, and both of those companies are also known for their own, we'll just say, controversies, without diving into too many details. But the actual acquisition started when Microsoft announced on January 18th of last year, 2022, that they're going to pay $68.2 billion for ABK. And as a reminder, Activision itself, of course, contains Call of Duty, and that, of course, is part of the 33% of the entirety of all video games played, military shooters, as well as other properties such as Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot. And those latter two were part of the subset of Toys for Bob before Toys for Bob were absorbed into Activision so that they could help push out the release of Call of Duty last year. Blizzard includes Warcraft, Overwatch, and a little game that I think Simbu likes called Diablo. You know, a little series, maybe a little bit known.
And nobody really knows that one.
Yeah, you know, they might have released a game last month. I don't know if anybody really heard it, but and then King, of course, includes a big major game called Candy Crush, and that's something, of course, the most casual of casual gamers have played on their phones probably half the time without thinking of it. So a couple of things on that. The deal itself, it had been approved by most of the regulators across the world, except the UK by the CMA's Competition and Markets Authority. That CMA declined it on April 26th of this year, and then with that, they cited issues with Microsoft's potential for monopolizing cloud gaming, because the cloud gaming itself is in its relative infancy. Cloud gaming is probably going to be another topic that maybe I'd like us to touch on at some point, because I think we talked about on a previous podcast just how poor the infrastructure for that is here in the United States, where you've got really wide, small swaths or small areas of really good connectivity and large swaths of deserts, literal deserts of there just not being any of that like high level connectivity needed for even any sort of type of cloud gaming. But the current plans as we speak is Microsoft's working with the CMA on a compromise so that the CMA can, of course, approve the deal. They're working on maybe having some other company handle all the cloud stuff. The other of the groups government-wise that have not approved it is the United States FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and they, of course, took the matter to court. And that's where they wanted to have the deal blocked. But as of, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, Judge Corley, who was presiding the case, had ruled on the side of Microsoft, specifically saying the court finds the FTC has not shown a likelihood it will prevail on its claim this particular vertical merger in this specific industry may substantially lessen competition. To the contrary, the record evidence points to more consumer access to Call of Duty and other Activision content. So it was like the FTC was focused on the Call of Duty / competitive portion. The CMA on across the pond had focused on the cloud gaming aspect. So now that Judge Corley has ruled against the FTC, while all that has been going on, and while the merger and the acquisition has been going on, Microsoft has been running around trying to make deals with all these companies that could, go against the actual deal itself, such as NVIDIA and Nintendo, up to and including guarantees of publishing Call of Duty on their systems for at least 10 years. And there's some interesting specific language in regards to a lot of these contracts, especially on the Nintendo side, but maybe we'll get to that. Sony was offered this same deal, but they declined it, and they were the biggest critics of this acquisition and merger. But once Judge Corley had ruled against the FTC, Sony then finally had accepted the deal, the Call of Duty deal with Microsoft. I want to say it was this past weekend or even just yesterday, Monday, the 17th of July. So for now, it looks like the deal is going to take place and more of gaming's properties overall and in general are going to fall and are going to come under Microsoft's wings. So the biggest discussion point on this, and we're a really good group here, because the three of us that you see here, that you're going to be here and talking about all this, we're not Xbox heads. We're not. I know Simbu and I have had histories of owning Xbox systems. Simbu, did you have the original Xbox as well as the 360?
Yeah, I had the original Xbox, the 360, and then for a time I had the Xbox One. However, the Xbox One's always online initiative that Microsoft was doing, at the time I had no home internet. So I know. I got heresy right there for a gamer, right? No. So having always online versus the PlayStation, the PS4, which was coding their system updates onto the game discs, such as 2016's God of War. I popped the game in, and it was like, your system needs an update in order to play this game. I'm like, well, shit. And it goes, well, would you like to install this update from the disc? I'm like, wait, what? As opposed to Halo 5, I believe, or the Master Chief Collection. I tried to play it, and it's like, you need to download a system update. You need to download an update for this game, otherwise you can't play it. So that kind of, at that point, solidified me onto PlayStation, because I kind of looked at it like, well, if you're running Blu-ray discs and the file, you can't find 5 megabytes or so.
Let me cut you off real quick, just with a quick question. What year did you purchase the Xbox One originally?
The Xbox One.
Was
I had it probably 2016, 2017-ish.
And for fans listening right now, just as a friendly reminder, internet, even just in a 7-year period, availability and just general usage could definitely have been different or changed or anything like that between then and now. And even individuals' systems or individuals' needs change. And that's hearing that whole always online thing was always something of feeling of contention for me, hearing that with Microsoft's system. Like, to me, not everybody is going to have that ease of accessibility that that maybe the quote unquote average gamer is gonna assume that they're gonna have. So maybe now that might be more regular for 2023. But again, the infrastructure here in the United States is a whole heck of a lot different than what could be available in other countries, because we have such a diverse variety of geography here in the States. It's not the same as in like a place like in Japan, which, funny enough, Microsoft has the least amount of market penetration. I'm sorry for interrupting, Simbu.
That's fine. To piggyback off of what you were just saying, I have friends that live in rural Arkansas. They live a block away from fiber internet from the provider there. The provider will not extend fiber from that one block to their house. So they're stuck with expensive, cheap, crappy, slow internet, because the local provider does not see a benefit to expanding the coverage network.
Wow.
So that's a whole issue there. He can, they can still play games with us online and not have a problem. But in order to play online, not only play online, but also play from cloud service, that's where that's where the problems are going to start.
Yeah, and it's one thing if it's just like a turn-based RPG. You're not gonna have to worry about so much lag. But if you're doing an action game like, let's say, a Halo Infinite, or God forbid, a Redfall, imagine you're doing Redfall, trying to connect online and play with your friends, and the game itself is running on the cloud. Imagine both of those processes running both at once online. It's going to be a hot mess. It's going to be like that whole pingman 999 thing. Your ping's at 3 nines, and you hit a button, and then 10 minutes later your character walks through a wall or something. It's ridiculous.
Well, and I mean, not only that, but then look at games that require more down to the millisecond reactivity, such as games like Dead by Daylight, where if I'm killer and you guys are survivors, I'm going to swing at you and you're going to try and do the juke spin. Well, by the time you interact, by the time you react to me, you've already been hit and I'm ready to hit you again.
Oh my gosh.
I would see it when we would play Friday the 13th. online on the Switch, and a friend had horrible internet. Like, she had DSL in her little area in Georgia, and you could tell the difference in like trying to catch her was a pain because her character would just jump around. It would jerk around a lot in the loading, and it was difficult to play that aspect, and that is all online. So, here I'm in Denver, and there are still areas that have DSL around these parts. So we are stuck with just cable internet. And we came from Milwaukee where we had fiber, so already going down a little bit, and so the United States is just not ready for cloud-based gaming like that. It's all going to tick people off in how you play and how you interact, and being able to move smoothly. It's not going to be as smooth, and then you'll have more people depending on their cell phone networks because those speeds are faster, and then those data plans will have to go up because all of a sudden people are using more data on their phones or whatever, because you can connect your phone hotspot and have faster internet than your local internet sometimes, and that's just crazy. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, how
Well,
sad
not
is it?
to also to one quick mention here, with cell phone hotspot as well as unlimited data on your phone itself, there's already speed caps.
Yes, there is.
Like 50 gigabytes of data on unlimited. During peak times, you will most likely notice a slowdown of your connection because you're using more. So
in our move, I hit it because I was stupidly streaming Big Bang Theory just to, unwind. And I hit our cap and got the warning that, guess what? Until this June 18th, you're going to notice slower connection speeds on your phone. I was like, yep, I noticed it. And I stopped doing that. But it was like, oops.
I love how they say, so now we're in the age of unlimited data, but we're really not, because as soon as you hit that cap, man, you get throttled. And
yep.
Well, it's still unlimited because you're not paying per byte,
right?
But again,
you're still throttled.
Getting throttled.
Yep.
So I kind of went on a little bit of a sidebar there, but this is all pertinent information because this is kind of the future world that Microsoft sees us being, I guess, gamers or video gamers in the future, with this whole cloud gaming as one of the many of the ways to play and whatnot. Regarding that, I kind of want to get your guys' barometer, since we are mostly non Xbox players. What are your general concerns regarding this deal? Simbu, you and I have kind of talked about this at length offline. This is it. This is the time to unload. If you have concerns regarding this, even as all, and for everybody who's joining us, Storm and Jason the 13th, Mobster, Simbu, and myself, we're on our own like games chat where we talk about topics and everything like that. Kind of inspired this podcast, in fact. And one of the many things I've been doing is providing updates and everything like that, and playing a lot of devil's advocate for the favor on the side of Microsoft, whether or not I personally believe that. I've been doing that to train Simbu for this moment, so that even with all the information I've passed and provided to him, I am genuinely curious. Simbu, don't hold back. Don't reserve your opinion. Just obviously keep it clean with the swearing. No effing swearing. You d-bag. Blah blah blah. No. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me know your thoughts, your concerns with the overall deal.
Before he does, I may have a comment when you're done to maybe incite some of the rage too, because of my opinion of why they're also doing this. So go ahead.
Oh no. Storm is gonna rage. Do we have like a category? 1 second, before I start answering. Should we have a category system for her? because she is a storm, like category 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Are you going to be in EF? Is this going to be an EF3 storm? Or are we going full EF5?
Oh, this probably be an EF0, EF1, maybe. A little tiny.
Okay, so right now
maybe.
she's at a tropical depression. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All
so
right.
There we go.
Honestly, when it comes to the whole Microsoft ABK deal, honestly, this is a huge win for the Xbox faithfuls. And honestly, something they sorely needed, seeing as how they have, as you know, Phil Spencer has eloquently put it, that they have been in third place for years. They have, they've just been in last place. So they, sorely needed it. I'm happy that, they got this win. To be, frankly honest, I'm happy they did get the win as fans. As far as Microsoft itself is concerned, we already saw Redfall come out under the Microsoft banner. And we saw the disaster that was. Now, they took their lumps, they took their lessons, and they doubled down on Starfield, or I should say, like, quadrupled down at this point on Starfield. So, I mean, judgment I still have to reserve judgment. However, until, of course, Starfield is released to the public and we can start actually watching actual, like, legit gameplay, not tailored experiences or anything like that, of Starfield and how it runs, what it looks like day one. Because we all know what Redfall looked like day one, and I don't know a content creator who said anything, super positive about the game. Now, and this is a big if Starfield does not deliver, that is going to solidify something that I questioned with Redfall under Microsoft's leadership. Excuse me. With this hands-off approach, they went with Redfall. If Microsoft is not tailoring, if Microsoft is not maybe not, micromanagement involved, but, a firm presence. Like, this is what we expect from Microsoft for our players. This is what Sony's doing. This is what Nintendo's doing. Guys, we have to do something similar. We have to provide a phenomenal experience for the people who have stuck by us for years now and have just been redheaded stepchild at this point in the gaming world. So with the Redfall, disaster, if Starfield does not deliver, again, it's going to solidify my question. Is Microsoft going to squander the resource and the plethora of talent that is ABK? Because if Starfield does not deliver, again, that means, again, I will say it and I will say it again, that Microsoft has squandered resources and money and talent on the purchase of ZeniMax, Bethesda, Arcane, and again, now the other thing that calls is going to call up is that, now they just bought ABK. Is ABK going to be the same thing? Are, they just gonna, put my little top hat and my monocle on and I'm gonna walk down the boardwalk twirling my cane? All right, that's gonna start getting into monopoly territory. And Inferno, we've talked about this as well. With this whole, and Storm, we've touched on it as well as a little bit here. Inferno and I more so, but this is going to be the shot heard round the world. With the FTC taking bat at trying to block it, what they did is they set a precedent so that if Sony or Nintendo were trying to buy another big company and they were to attempt to do the same thing, that they can say, well, we're not showing bias because we already tried with Microsoft. We went up and took the bat on Microsoft with the ABK deal. So they're covering themselves. However, now that has been approved and that the FTC has lost their argument, if Sony were to purchase, let's say, Embracer Group, okay, because I would say, I would go with Square Enix, but I don't really know why Sony would buy Square Enix. They've had a super long and fruitful partnership for many generations. I mean, that would be the most likely move. That would be their best course of action. But let's think bigger. Let's go with Embracer Group because Embracer Group is just a massive company. And not to mention, Inferno Fox, you'll probably back me up on this, but as recent as a few weeks ago, Embracer Group made public that they are shutting down studios. Mm-hmm. They are trimming the fat. So who's not to say that Sony will go, hey, guys, all these studios you want to shut down, hey, can we pick them up from you? Can we just buy them? We'll make you a good deal. And again, it will lead back to this ABK deal as the shot heard around the world, because now you're getting into monopoly territory. And I know I'm talking in circles, but it is very important and prevalent at this point, where it's going to become a buying war. And whoever has the more money is going to win.
And really, just to kind of sidebar that, let's compare 25 years ago when it was Sony and Sega doing their competition, where Sega, it was the smaller company, but they had the Sega Saturn, but they were going against Sony, who was flush with cash, and they were introducing the PlayStation. Well, it was Sony that was going to be able to win that. Now you advance into now time, and Sony looks like the little guy because they have only about $100 billion of market capital versus Microsoft's. I think it's like 1 or 2 trillion. So
$2 trillion, roughly.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's really makes all of the presence of all of the other video game companies look like the real small monikers, as it were, because Microsoft is the big monster and they've just taken a big bite, an approved bite. Storm, you had a EF0, EF1 rage on this?
Yes. See, what I think is Microsoft is doing this, taking up all the big company, like all of those that will only be then exclusive to the Xbox systems to make up for the failings that they've had. Instead of worrying about putting out good content and maybe putting out a worthwhile game for all of their fans that deserve it, they're taking the easy way out. So that way, all of those games become platform specific, and that just kind of stinks for fans, because all those cross-platform games are fun to have because not everyone can afford every system that is out there. So, way to isolate audiences. Way to go, Xbox or Microsoft, and I did have a 360. We had one, and the Kinect was fun. They had a good thing, and I don't know.
Oh man, Rise of Nightmares was great.
And it's funny because Phil Spencer was the one himself who's been quoted to say that he wants the idea of exclusivity to be a thing in the past for video games. Phil Spencer, the president of Xbox. So kind of let that resonate in our minds here as we talk about Microsoft gobbling up all these like major studios. But my thought process on this is, so Microsoft's been publishing. They've already been gobbling these, as Simbu has discussed, with like the ZeniMax Bethesda thing, and they have been publishing third-party stuff even since before then, like Minecraft. Minecraft's been on other systems, even after they bought Mojang, the guys who, of course, created Minecraft back in 2014. So with the game being published for almost 10 years on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and obviously a plethora of Xbox systems, is that a worry at this point? Do we worry that the days of Diablo, Crash Bandicoot, and the like are going to stop appearing on non-Xbox systems, even with these 10-year deals?
Well, see, now, yeah, fine. We got a 10-year deal, okay? Ooh, 10-year deal. But, again, let's go with corporate greed. Let's throw down corporate greed. We're talking about monetary gross capital weight. We're talking about that. Cool. What happens when, let's say, a NHL player who has a one-way contract, which means they cannot be traded, they cannot be sent to the minors, which is a no-move clause in their contract. Well, what happens if they're not performing anymore? Does the team do it? For a little bit, but there's always an option to buy out the contract and make them and trade them. Yeah, pay it off and get them off their bench.
Because at that point, let's say we're a year and a half into the 10-year contract with NVIDIA. So what's preventing the flush with cash Microsoft from paying out the rest of the contract if there is such a clause in that? That's a great point.
Plus a contract breaking fee of, let's say the rest of the contract is, I don't know, $1 million. And then to break the contract, they have to pay like an extra $750,000. Okay. That is Phil's walking about money. Okay. I mean, that's like, a haunted house walking into the Trans World Trade Show, which is the gigantic haunted house convention for, haunts to go buy props and stuff for the next upcoming season. That's like, the owners of Basement walking around and going, yeah, we'll buy that, we'll buy that, we'll buy that, we'll buy that, we'll buy that. That's, that 1.7 mil that would be used to break that contract is that money right there.
To your point, further, remember that if they didn't close the deal by the end of today, July 18th, then Microsoft would have been legally required to pay Activision $3 billion. $3 billion. That's roughly about 7 to 8% of the value. Okay, no, I'm wrong. I think it's like 3 to 5% of the value of the acquisition itself. Like just to be like, okay, if this doesn't work, or we're paying you $3 billion, we're out $3 billion. But again, when you're a $2 trillion company, that's a relative drop in the pan.
Yeah, not only that, but then you guys, Storm brought up the exclusivity. I don't care what Phil says publicly, because we have heard plenty of stuff from creators and people who have talked to insiders and stuff saying that there is a high probability that ES6, Elder Scrolls 6, is going to be Xbox exclusive.
Yes. Yep.
So right there's what Storm is talking about. There is we're going to buy a studio. We're going to take a well-loved franchise, not personally by me. I didn't really like Skyrim, but I loved Morrowind. I loved Oblivion. ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, is not terrible. It's just, kind of fun for a little bit and then put it aside for a while. But like that, if this comes to pass and ES6 goes Microsoft exclusive, that sets a dangerous precedent, because it's like, oh, Call of Duty is protected. Well, what about everything else?
And it's funny too, because the ZeniMax Bethesda deal, Phil Spencer had gotten word that Bethesda was working on Starfield as a PS4 exclusive. It was not planned to be a release for an Xbox system whatsoever. That's when they really started doing a full court press to purchase ZeniMax Bethesda. they did honor all of their contracts. I have to say that with games like Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop, by releasing them on the PS4 and PS5 first with the 1-year exclusivity, they have honored that. But when those contracts are over, where is Starfield going? It's Xbox Series X/S and PC only. That's it. There's not even any talk whatsoever of it being ported to the PS5. I haven't heard anything about that.
Well, let's go Redfall. There was the first shot right there. Redfall was supposed to be a cross-platform game,
Yes.
a multi-plat game. When Xbox and Microsoft purchased ZeniMax Bethesda id, guess what? Guess what happened? Oh, we want the game for ourselves. We want the game for ourselves. We don't, so. And the guys they used was, well, it's easier for a developer to work on one system or one, but that's not really true because the devs brought it out for Xbox and PC.
See, to me, okay, that's like a cop out in a way. It is easier to develop a game for one system by default. It for one system, but as you just said, it was for both. Redfall was both for Xbox, and it's not even for one system. It's not for the Xbox Series X. By default, it's two systems, the Series X and the Series S. And I've heard murmurings from developers online that it is a pain in the butt for them to develop for both systems. But they have to do it anyway because Microsoft wanted to have the easy route, the easy way to get in, the entryway, which is the S, and then the professional way, which is the X. So yeah, no, they don't even develop for one system. It's two, X and S, and then the PC, which is the rainbow wide variety spectrum. So really adding in a PS4 or a PS5 theoretically shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be when you're already developing for three, and that third one, the PC, is the rainbow spectrum. Storm, I'm sorry, go ahead, Simbu.
And not to mention that it was already going the way of all systems.
Mm-hmm.
It was already supposed to be for all systems. So guess what? Arcane had already started the dev process for all systems.
Exactly.
Well, guess what? When they bought it, Microsoft said, hey, you see the blue guys over there? Cut them.
Gosh. Storm, what are your thoughts so far on this?
It is a lot of malarkey. That is just.
Oh, she's going EF2 now.
Yeah,
malarkey thrown around.
There we go. The fear of those games just becoming exclusive to one system because they already said we won't do that, but then they did that with others. So, I know Call of Duty is a huge one. Has that always been an Xbox, or that is a cross-platform, isn't it? Because I've seen that on discount. I've seen that on sale.
Yeah, that has always been Xbox and PlayStation.
So I can imagine them wanting to and take it because the PlayStation is just a beast of a system.
I will mention that Call of Duty was on the Wii, and then I think there was a version that released on the Wii U, and the Wii servers I think are still up to this day.
I do remember that, and they tried to capture the whole motion control.
Oh, I get motion sickness thinking of that. I'm sorry, Storm.
That's okay, but yeah, I think it is more of a. It's a court. When it comes down to it, it's all corporations are out for themselves, and what is going to make them money. People are going to get screwed in the end because they'll do a lot of that closing down one system or we don't need these guys. We're going to save money because we're only going to do whatever for PC. Well, PC is covered under Microsoft, because what do a lot of home people have? What are they running? Windows, a lot of home PCs don't have any other operating systems. And we won't get into I love my Mac. But I understand not everyone can afford a Mac. but Macs just work, and they're great because they just work. But not everyone can afford them, and that's a whole different discussion for a different day. So I understand all of that, and it seems money hungry, and we're going to see a lot of people that used to be able to play games together not be able to play some games together because all of a sudden it's going to be only Xbox, and that just is annoying. This day and age, get over yourselves. Put out an original product that people will want to play instead of forcing me to come play things that have already existed on all these other platforms, like the Elder Scrolls 6. They've been out on other platforms, and all of a sudden you're going to just throw it on one system, forcing me to go over to your system. That just makes me want to put my middle finger up to you and say, I will not do that.
And the whole exclusivity thing has been obviously a thing since the console wars back with Nintendo and Sega. But one of the funny things with that in particular is a lot of the news came forth during the acquisition process and during the Microsoft v. FTC case, and includes one of the big facts was that Sony pays a lot of these third-party companies not to publish their games on Game Pass. So if we've got issues regarding the acquisition, what do we feel about the idea that Sony's been doing that for some time, making sure titles like Resident Evil, even when they're multi-platform, like I want to say Resident Evil 2 and 3, the remakes now are, I think 7 and 8 are multi-plat now. Sony's been paying Capcom not to have them on Game Pass. So what are our thoughts on the idea that, okay, Microsoft's they're going to be keeping ESO, I apologize, Elder Scrolls 6 as Xbox only, but Sony's been doing that ever since they've really been a thing. And of course, Simbu, you mentioned their cooperation with Square Enix. Impacting me personally is like the Final Fantasy series, where Sony has been really leading the charge to make sure they're keeping that on the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 4 and so on and so forth. What are our thoughts with Sony doing that?
They're all buttheads. That's it. They're just buttheads. Stop being buttheads.
Well, again, like, okay, you bring up Game Pass. Now, in regard to the whole Game Pass thing, I mean, if, Resident Evil 9 comes out and it's a multi-plat, which it probably will be, it is, it's a smart decision on Sony's part to pay a little extra to keep it off of Game Pass itself, not to keep it off the system. Because if they were paying to keep it off the system after multiple releases of, cross-platform, dev, I would be giving them the Microsoft third degree that I'm doing right now with the ABK thing. The biggest thing with the whole Game Pass issue is, well, okay, it's $15 a month. The game comes out at $60 or $70 now, sorry. That is a game, let's say a game like Resident Evil with no multiplayer to speak of. It's pretty much a 1 or 2 playthrough, and then you put it aside for a while. Okay, let's just be honest. I love RE7, I love RE8, I love the 2 and 3 remakes, but it's not a game that I'm going to go, you know what I should play for the next 3 months? Resident Evil. Unless, there's a multiplayer which will keep me engaged, or I can play co-op or something like that. So let's go with that. Our Resident Evil 9 comes out. Sony pays Capcom an let's say, I don't know, $3 million on top, on top of what Capcom's getting already for RE9 to keep it off, or, maybe 3 mil might be a bit much, but I digress. But it keeps it off of Game Pass. It doesn't take it away from Xbox. It takes it away from Game Pass. The problem with, again, when I bring up numbers, is Game Pass is $15 a month. Resident Evil is a game you play for maybe a couple weeks and you put it away for a while. You just paid $7.50 to play that game. How much did Capcom just lose on your copy alone? Now multiply that by millions of users. Okay? Millions of users just played that game for $7.50.
So, and I'm gonna take what you had said, and let's talk about Resident Evil 4, which had sold 3.7 million units, I think, over the first month that it came out. 3.7 million units. So you got 3.7 times $70, and then Sony paid $3 million on top of all of that. And let's compare that to Game Pass. Let's say, okay, we're going to make it multi-platform, both on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and allow Microsoft to pay us $5 million to appear on Game Pass. Now, all of a sudden, that 3.7 million becomes something like 1 million, because savvy gamers are going to know, why am I going to pay $70 for this game when I can pay $15 for 1 month, get the game done in 2 weeks' time, and then I've really only paid $15 for a $70 game. And Capcom really only gets that $5 million for that month versus the 3.7 million times $70. And of course, obviously, that $70 you take off of margin, you take off all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But just a parable alone, the real winner isn't Sony, it isn't Microsoft, it's going to be Capcom, it's going to be Square Enix, it's going to be Embracer Group, the ones that are looking out for themselves to take whatever is the most cash. And if Valve pays $5 million for exclusivity to keep something on Steam for, let's say, Resident Evil 9, and it's digital sales only, at least they're selling copies, and that's going to sell. Not as well as it would if it was PS5 exclusive or PS5/Xbox, but not on Game Pass. So at least that's kind of my thought. Simbu, I'm in full agreement with you on there, and then some. The big money is for the developer, and that's the important thing.
Right. And I mean, I'm not, trying to be a corporate pony or anything here, but, when you have so many amazing, talented people and somebody who works in entertainment, myself, and performance, if I'm starting to get paid less or be treated poorly for giving stellar performances or, amazing experiences, let's say last year for my performance, I made $5,000. And this year I only make $2,000, but yet the company I'm performing for is making more than what they did the year before. Okay, that to me does not equate being valued. So what am I going to do? I'm going to, personally, I am going to seek out another company that is going to, pay me what I deserve. Not just that, I'm a blah, 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 I deserve this. It's I deserve it because I've earned it. I've earned the credit. I have the credibility. I've scraped, I've fought tooth and nail for it. So if I'm not being appreciated over here, well, over here says they're going to pay me more than what these guys said. So guess where I'm going to go? I'm going over here.
And I feel like at this point, and Simbu, you would agree with me on this. I'm going to make the statement: the developers over at Capcom, with the likes of Resident Evil, they've proven their mettle. They deserve the income and the money and everything like that. Not even just the company itself, but obviously like the individual developers. They've proven their mettle, and if they need to do what they need to be able to provide the high budget experience of the AAA game like the Resident Evil 4 remake, but get a little bit of extra money from Sony to do it. I don't know. I'm of the mind that like if that's what they're going to do, that's what they're going to do. Storm, what do you think on that? Or I'm sorry, Simbu.
Yeah. Just one kind of thing is haunt acting is a passion of mine. I've been doing it for 25 years. I enjoy the living hell out of it. So the fact that I get monetary compensation for it is great. For 17 years, I didn't get paid diddly squat for any of it, but I still performed to the top tier caliber that I hold myself. Now, again, it's not all just money. Okay. There's bonuses like, hey, we thought you would really like this, so we got this for you to use. This would go well with what you're, with your character, or hey, we're going to this convention. Are you planning on going? Well, yeah. Hey, we got your we're gonna comp your ticket for the convention, kind of thing. Like there, perks and stuff like that. So, and what it does is it helps fuel your passion, because now you feel appreciated, you feel loved, you feel respected. You don't feel like, well, I'm just getting the whip cracked on me, and well, let me go sow another cornfield or whatever. Let me hitch me up to the plow instead of the oxes. I'll pull the plow. I mean, so it comes to a point where and I know that might be a bit triggering for our audience, that may watch this, but that's the truth. At some point, no matter how passionate you are about something, if you are underappreciated or respected by the place you're at, well, eventually that's going to affect your passion. Your levels are going to drop. Guess what? The content you now put out, if you made Inferno Fox as a game character and everything was great, and then he went on to a Game Pass where his game, you guys made like 30% of what you should have made for his game. Well, in the next game, maybe I'm not so interested in making Inferno Fox look lifelike. Maybe I'm going to cut corners now.
Exactly. Storm, I'm sorry. Kind of zoom into you. What are your thoughts about that? Is that something where Sony kind of doing the sort of exclusivity? Are you still of the mind that they're all butt heads, right? Right.
Yeah, I think so. But when we're talking, I don't know, individual developers and I like programming and all of that has always been vastly interesting, and I respect people that can do it. So like game creators, whatever, if Sony is going to pay you a bit more money to keep your content over here and only work on it over on this, I understand that's, it's different than a big corporation saying we're going to buy up everything and no longer here and these developers are going to go away. I don't know.
Now, that's really kind of a resonant thing. Like right now, I'm reading a book by the Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier called Press Reset, and it's about the era of the aughts and maybe even the early teens last decade, where you had a whole bunch of these individuals where there's buyout stories, and a lot of these corporations, such as the EAs of the world, they're buying up these smaller monsters like a BioWare thing, for example, and then they don't know what they have. They they micromanage everything. The developers end up getting the actual individual developers, like the artists, the level designers, all that stuff. All their creativity gets cut to the bone. Exactly what Simbu was saying. And sometimes you end up developing a lesser game or a game that doesn't get as much funding, and then they end up like totally doing a whole bunch of sets of layoffs. I mean, it's no mystery that the indie market and indie games in general blew up last decade, the teens, because you had so many of these individual developers just tired of all the AAA bull crap. And it's all a product of these big purchases like the Microsoft ABK one. And the hope, the thought is that the big new hope is that Microsoft is just the gentle giant with the big money. That's Santa Claus that wants to give the gift of toys and money to the little kid developers so that or the little kid elves, so that they can make the toys for all the little kids. That's the hope. But the reality, the precedent is a lot different. Kind of one of the last little topics, because I think we're a little over an hour right now. This has been a really good.
No, actually, we're still on target.
Ah, excellent. One of the things that I wanted to kind of touch upon with this deal, because of course, I do tend to be Nintendo centric, where I celebrate all the game systems. While I admit I lean a bit a ways from Xbox. If you're an Xbox gamer, you're a gamer. You're like a brother, sister, friend to me. But I lean heavily and always have to the Nintendo side. Regarding this deal itself, the ABK Microsoft one, a lot of interesting stuff came to light. Not just the fact that, okay, Call of Duty is going to come to Nintendo's system for the next 10 years. They cited specifically that an entry is going to go to the Nintendo Switch. Furthermore, they did also state it will go to Nintendo's successor. And the current CEO, Bobby Kotick, he's a real piece of work. We're not going to get into Bobby Kotick right now, but had stated probably incorrectly that the newest Nintendo system, based off of literal no knowledge, because he has no knowledge, was something that was going to be like PS4, Xbox One level of strength. So again, he doesn't have knowledge of it. You take that for what it's worth. But the deal has stated that there's going to be a system, a Call of Duty game coming to the Switch. That's part one. Part two is that the documentation recently pulled up as of today has said that it's not just Call of Duty stuff. It's Activision content in general will be guaranteed to appear on Nintendo platforms for the next 10 years. And that's an important little sideliner, because of the fact that Activision, of course, includes other stuff like the Crash and the Spyro, and the fact that if Activision stuff is, then I'd assume that includes Blizzard and King stuff. And if Nintendo's next system is going to be similar to the Switch, you've got a thing where you could do something like Diablo 4 portably and on the go, and just link it into the dock, and you got it on however strong Nintendo's system is going to be. But my big thing is, and Simbu, you and I had kind of talked about it, like, what the heck kind of product is Call of Duty going to look like on the Switch? And I'm concerned, and I've played devil's advocate on that, but I'm concerned because, yeah, you've got miracle ports like Witcher 3, Doom Eternal, Doom 2016 that look fan-flippin-tastic on the Switch. But Call of Duty is a whole nother beast. Yeah, they got it to run on the Wii, which is really a souped-up GameCube, but that's not the same thing. Where does the cross-platform, how is that going to work? Somebody playing on the Switch versus playing with their brethren on the Xbox Series X and the PS5. And then, or is it going to be a game that's like its own entity? Yeah, Call of Duty is, but it's Call of Duty, what is it? What's the one? Black Ops 1 or something like that, where it's an offshoot and it's just a single player campaign. Like, hey, we said Call of Duty was coming. We didn't say what form it is. It kind of reminds me of the beginning of The Dark Knight, where Scarecrow's like, I said it, my drug would take you places. I didn't say there were places you were going to go. a whole crazy diatribe, my whole crazy thoughts on this. Storm, what do you think? What do you think with Nintendo's thing's going to be with this whole Microsoft ABK deal?
Well, for some of the cross platforms on the Switch, now don't get me wrong, I love it. It is a good system, but games that aren't made by Nintendo don't usually look as great or perform as great as made for Nintendo games do by Nintendo. So there's some concern there. I can point out the differences in Fortnite immediately, and then trying to play that before I got the PlayStation, as you both know, you would have to wait for me to load into the library or into the lobby, and you're all flying down, and I'm finally getting on the bus and finally being able to see where your marker is, and you're already on the ground. So there are some of those issues I'm afraid of, but I mean, to see other things on any Nintendo platform is definitely interesting, because having grown up in the era of Nintendo beating out Atari and becoming the household system, and Nintendo only ever having Nintendo products on their systems until recently in life is definitely interesting. So I don't know. They could be okay, but it's again, Nintendo games made for Nintendo look great, and others that are cross-platform, I think, suffer because they have to, I'm air quoting, and they have to dumb them down for the Switch because it's powerful, but it's not as powerful as the PlayStation or Xbox.
And it's a thing where I might be cutting into some of Simbu's argument, because the biggest argument that I can think of regarding the military shooters thing is there an audience for military shooters on the Nintendo Switch? Because I
don't think so.
Yeah, like that's my thought. And my worry by saying that is I fear I'm stereotyping those that like the military shooters. So about my apologies to any of my audience that plays them and may be interested in a Switch version. But I worry whether or not there's going to be individuals that would want to play it on the Switch. Now, the new updated system, if that is any sort of competitor horsepower-wise, and I'm betting it won't be, to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, we're going to have a different discussion, because the idea of doing a military shooter, like, if I was really into that, I would love the ability to be, playing and whatnot. Oh, I have to go to the washroom. I had too much Taco Bell. I'm playing with my buddies. Oh, I'm going to grab my new updated Switch, and because it's the Switch, it immediately works when you pull it off the thing. You grab it. You're on the toilet for, I'm going to assume my stereotypical person's a guy in his 20s, and he's doing his business. An hour later, he's got 2 or 3 matches in, and he can now go ahead and dock his newly updated Switch, or whatever, Switch 2, whatever, is back in the dock and continue playing. But I think Call of Duty living on a Nintendo system is going to be predicated on it performing much to the level of what the current iteration of the PS5 and Xbox would play at. Simbu, how much am I encroaching on your thoughts here?
See, for me, I'm not so focused on the ability to travel with Call of Duty. I'm focused on the fact that detail-wise, how is it going to look? Its appearance, shading, matting. I mean, Storm can attest to it. Inferno Fox, you can attest to it. How does Fortnite look on the Switch compared to the current new gen consoles?
And most importantly, how does it run? Are you going to enjoy that 30 FPS with dips down to 20? Or are you going to play it on a system that is 60 FPS consistently, where lag because of performance isn't going to screw you over?
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick, I will just tell you that the only reason I've turned Fortnite on my Switch right now is to redeem V-Bucks because they're locked over on my Switch and I can't move them over to the PlayStation because there are some areas of the map I guarantee you that would just take forever to render and would just drive me nuts and I would be dead in a match right away just waiting for it to render. So I've not tried. I mean, it could be okay, but I doubt it because it's just so environmentally rich.
And I mean,
Call
of Duty doesn't have big maps like Fork Knife, but it has a lot of maps and a lot of action. You know, it's still that action piece.
And a lot of detail.
Yes.
Because why do people play military shooters? For the realism. Fortnite is not a realistic looking game. It is the cross point between Borderlands and Call of Duty. You have great models, you have a great look, but it still has that, cartoony look to it.
That's an interesting mix there, Simbu. Borderlands v Call of Duty. I like that. With the Minecraft thing built in with the build thing, and then you toss that out with no build mode. I like that.
I'm saying for visually, look at Borderlands. It's very, 2D, cell shade, shaded looking. I mean, it doesn't try to look realistic at all.
I like that.
And then you got Fortnite, which tries to look like a 3D world render, but it's still cartoony.
Yes.
Now you go on to Call of Duty, which, Call of Duty Battlefield, MAD, Homefront. You can go on to, Medal of Honor. You can go all these other games where their draw is how realistic the game looks. How realistic do the environments look? Because if I'm supposed to be fighting in Prague and it looks like I'm fighting in Prague from, Naruto, well, that's not realistic to me anymore. Why am I playing a realistic military shooter if Prague, the city of Prague, the main square of Prague, looks like it should be in an episode of Naruto?
So what's interesting, and I just on a whim, I checked, and the shooter Apex Legends is also on. It's on the Switch, and it's been on the Switch. I wonder how that runs.
I've done a little bit of it. It wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I just thought of another one that is on the Switch because let me, not beat up on the Switch too much. Is the Zombie Army World Party 3 I have on the Switch, and that is a pretty graphic shooter. It was fun, so maybe there will be some interest in Call of Duty, but I don't think.
Have you tried Doom 2016 on the Switch? Is multiplayer at all?
I have not done multiplayer, no.
I'm curious how that runs because I've done a crud ton of the multiplayer for that on the PS4. That has me curious.
Well, I want to interrupt here. One thing, when we're talking about Doom versus Call of Duty, and InfernoFox, I guarantee you be able to tell me, there is a massive difference between the art style
and the way both engines run. Absolutely, because
not only the engine's running, but just again, let's take it to let's compare Star Trek, the new Star Trek directed by J.J. Abrams, where everything looks nice and flat and shiny, reflective, real dark corners, whatever. And then we'll go Call of Duty would be like Lord of the Rings. Very, it's from a visual standpoint, Doom has a lot more sleek surfaces. Call of Duty is very textured surfaces.
Like gritty in a way.
Right. So like meant to look, like a blown up concrete block. You can, look at it and you can see all these little ridges and waves and stuff like that. In Doom, however, you're not going to see as much of that running around.
I mean,
so it would make sense that Doom would be able to perform a little bit better on the Nintendo systems just for that factor.
I mean, the counter argument is that games like Doom Eternal, on the PS5, the level of detail on that is phenomenal. I mean, it probably was at the level, or even possibly trumped that year's Call of Duty. Regardless, it's still a game that really, its multiplayer is only with 3 individuals every single match. Doom Eternal, 3 individuals. Its first player is extremely detailed, great, but how is it going to run? How's the multiplayer? 3 individuals.
That is very true.
3 individuals, that's nothing. Whereas Call of Duty, if I'm remembering right, and I'm most likely I'm not, I think it's like
5-on-5 to 5-on-5 if you're playing like team deathmatch, like capture the flag. I mean, Warzone is on the level of Fortnite with 100-person battle royals.
Oh yeah, see how I'm going to be really curious to see what type of version of Call of Duty that Microsoft is painting Activision into a corner to be able to provide for the Switch. I'm really curious on that.
Right, and I did want to, before we end this, I do want to counter your argument real quick. With a game like Doom, yes, Doom Eternal looked phenomenal and destroyed that year's Call of Duty in detail. But again, you've got to look at the texturing of the environments. How easy are they to, quote unquote, dumb down? To run on, to make it look nice or make it look better on the Switch while not highly impacting performance.
See, I think the aesthetics aren't really the big thing. It's going to be the engine, whether or not the engine can run and handle all of that. You can dumb down the look and make it look as basic as Kim Kardashian. You're a 10 on the pH scale. It's going to be whether or not it's going to be able to run the thing. And I don't know how they're going to be able to do 100 man battle royale type Warzone thing on the Switch. Doom's got a certain look and Call of Duty's got a look, and you can degrade that because there's been Call of Duty on the Wii and the Wii U, but it's like I'm not worried about the aesthetic as I am the engine, and I just don't know how they're going to do it.
Well, and again, but aesthetic does play into operation as well. As Storm has said, rendering. I don't see it. Only because of these so and so miracle ports of getting them onto the Switch. Like, yeah, you can because you got a picture that's like 4K, 2160, and you're going to dumb it down to 720p, and that's all well and good. But like, how well is that going to look when you've got that 720p, but then you got 100 of these characters or 99 other enemies trying to appear? They're not going to appear. Your Switch is going to go at 1 frame per second, and you're going to get an overheat thing like a PS5 playing Final Fantasy 16, and your Switch is going to blow up. I don't know how that's going to be. They'll probably all just look like Steve from Minecraft.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say,
that's it.
What's going to happen is because until I played Fortnite on the PlayStation, everyone looked like a generic skin.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, while we're waiting in the lobby, I'm like, oh my God, I can see everyone's skin. So that's probably what would happen on the Switch. And I imagine if they did do Call of Duty on the Switch, it's only going to be for the Switch. Like, you can play online versus other Switch players, but you're not going to be able to do cross-platform with that, because Friday the 13th, we could not cross-platform. So whatever system it is, that is what you could play. So
sorry, Storm. That's a whole other. Crossplay was
rights issue.
It wasn't a rights issue. It was thought of, and they wanted to do it, but the lawsuit.
Yeah, halted everything in that poor game.
halted the entire game. They were only allowed to support what they had already done, because they never were able to bring out the Jason X stuff, which they had already designed and ready to go, but the lawsuit blocked that. So
there's a whole nother podcast rant for another day.
And it's definitely going to be a good rant. But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap things up here. This is really a monumental thing. There's not only never been an acquisition that's been this large in the video game world. I think this is something that even is one of the largest in entertainment overall. And to that end, it's a thing that, gentle reminder for anybody giving you a hard time about video, you, the audience, maybe myself, Storm, Simbu, anybody giving you a hard time about this as a hobby, just remember, video games are bigger than TV, music, and movies combined. Video games are bigger than that, the industry as a whole. So anything that impacts this industry and our hobby in such a way definitely needs, if anything, have some healthy discussion here. And I felt like we've really been able to do that. So go ahead and wrapping up again. I just want to say thank you again to my wonderful cast and crew here. We, of course, had Stormrosesky, and you can find her at both YouTube and Twitch at Stormrosesky. Storm, thank you again so much for joining us.
You're welcome. And I'm maybe working on doing some of my own videos, like doing some nostalgia stuff, like top 5 forgotten TV shows of the 80s is one I'm working on right now.
Awesome. Yeah, so, definitely looking forward to that. Keep us posted when that actually posts.
Will do.
And of course, Simbu Darkfang, thank you so much for joining as well. Excellent conversation. I knew today would be great with all your fantastic feedback and experience. And again, gentle reminder, you can find Simbu Darkfang at Basement of the Dead in Aurora, Illinois. Again, that's Basement of the Dead. Thank you again, Simbu. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And again, I'm not a PlayStation snob. I'm not a Sony pony. I really do hope that ABK under Microsoft's umbrella thrives and it makes the better for the gaming community. However, I just have concerns that this is going to be a monopoly race, and we're all going to lose, whether you're blue, red, or green. We're all going to lose if that's what it becomes.
Yeah, because the worry, of course, if there's a bidding war and there's less developers or less individuals, competition breeds innovation, and innovation gets us fantastic video games such as the Final Fantasy 16s, Diablo 4s, Jedi Survivors, and Legend of Zeldas. You're not going to get that if you don't have those that are willing to innovate. And if you don't have competition, you don't have innovation, period.
Not only that, but one more quick note. The Nintendo Wii and its Move. Guess what? That inspired the PlayStation Move. That inspired the Xbox Kinect. VR would not be probably not be as popular or even a conversation right now had that not already been designed.
Yeah, by Nintendo.
VR uses Virtual the Move. Yep.
And it kind of, I don't mean to be jokey with that, but I mean, Nintendo was one of the first consoles to do that, and sometimes innovations don't pan out. Like I'm going to get controversial for saying this, the 3D era, everything being 3D, and then that just kind of disappearing. But again, just a quick shout out also to our castmates who couldn't be here. That, of course, is Jason the 13th. You can find him at his YouTube channel, Jason the 13th, also Astrimedes, and you can find him at Second Place Games. Thank you, everybody, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.